back to Cross Stitch the Globe. My name is Stephanie. This is a channel about cross stitch. And obviously I'm filming by myself today. We do have a video with Allison that's going to come out on Thursday because we recorded it last week. I didn't get time to edit and do all the listings, so it's going to come out on Thursday. It's a de-stash parade, the second part of what my friend sent me from the LNS that she saved from going to the landfill. And her channel is Beck's Bin, and she also runs estate sales and cross stitch sales on Whatnot. So if you're interested in vintage stuff, check her out. But that video will go up on Thursday. And then for those of you who have joined the membership, our first Stitch With Me Zoom is going to be on Sunday the 18th at 12:30. I think I said 12, at 12 Central Standard Time, and I will put up all the information in the community section of in the community section of YouTube as like a members only post with like the link to join and everything. So I'm excited to see you guys there. Let's dive into cross stitch. Let's start by thanking the channels that mentioned us. So Heather from Woolly Woolly Sheep Sheep mentioned our most expensive patterns and kits videos because she did a video on the most expensive cross stitch kits from the UK. Because when I did ours, it's obviously like I can only see the data I can see, and so I pull like US eBay. And I know a lot of people will shop eBay International and buy from other countries, but she pulled just the UK data. So if you're interested in that video, go check that out. I'll link it below. Anything I mention will be linked in the description below. Any channels, any patterns. Well, patterns don't get linked, but they do get like right now. So, and then Lollipop Stitches, Andy the Crow Stitcher, and Jill from Stitch and Books all mentioned either my vintage channel, the Stephanie Shop Secondhand, or they mentioned my Etsy de-stash because all three of them bought stuff from me either on Etsy patterns. Actually, all three of them bought patterns off Etsy. But then two of them bought things from my new vintage resale shop. So that was really fun to see like things that I bought in thrift stores here, like make it all the way to the UK or make it all the way to the East Coast and not break because there were glass items. Then also just talk about like cool vintage patterns and different things like that. So thank you guys for not only like mentioning me on your channel, but also like supporting me and helping me pay some bills in real life. Then Zoe from Coco Creates and Jan from Jan Stiff Stitches both mentioned my Mirabilia parade that I did last week, and Natalia from Official Mermaids Code recommended our DIY leather bag vlog video that we're doing with a Babylon leather kit, and also just said some really nice things about the channel in general. So thank you to everyone who recommended the channel. It means so much. And then congratulations. We want to congratulate Sammy J Stitches. Celebrated their Flosstube University. The Steadfast Stitcher celebrated 5 years on Flosstube. And Sammy J Stitches, I didn't catch the year, how many years, but it's got to have been a lot. And Helen D, East Coast Crafter, had reached 20,000 Flosstube subscribers on YouTube, which is nuts. So all three of those channels are channels that I watch and recommend, so go check them out. I will link them below. And then happy birthday to Michelle, the Chinook Crafter. Her birthday is this week. I think I am going to pull out my unicorn tapestry. Not unicorn tapestry, unicorn's garden, my sprouting lupine unicorn piece. Because she might start it for her birthday, and then her other thing, she was like choosing between two birthday starts. And I have that one as a whip, and I don't have the other one. So I said I would pull that one out on her birthday, regardless of whether she chose it or not. And then Megan the Seattle Stitcher, happy birthday. Tara the Recovering Book Hoarder. Clancy Creations, Leah and Graham, both Leah and Graham from Leah's Cross Stitch Corner, and they're now their shop, Little Guinea Stitching. And then Karen from Fox and Rabbit had a birthday, and Kansas City Girl and a Colorado World, Julie, is one of her samplers that Karen is doing as her birthday stitch along, and it's really pretty. All right, let's dive into stitching. I need to leave for carpool in an hour, and it'd be really great if when I got back I just started editing and didn't have to keep filming, so we'll see if I can make that happen. Okay, so I'm going to start with finishes. I have two. If you've seen the Make It Murder reveal video, so Allison and I host, we hosted it last September, we're going to host it again this September, Make It Murder Sal, where you take like a cutesy cross-stitch picture, like a, you know, like a cute little prairie schooler, like something really charming and cozy, and you change enough elements that instead of it being a cozy place, it is now a cozy murder place. So Allison, she changed Seaside Tiny Town to be Dexter themed, the show Dexter, who's a serial killer. So if you didn't see that and you're interested, go check it out. I'm going to go ahead and show my two finishes that I did for that, but I'm not going to explain them. Just because I know there's a lot more of you guys that watch Flosstube episodes than watch like the extras that we put out like that. So just kind of for posterity. So this is my Make It Murder version of Hello Summer by Erin Elizabeth. And if you want to see like how it's murdery or the changes or whatever, you can go watch that video. I'll link it below. But I did finish it, and I didn't finish it for this Flosstube. I finished it for the last Flosstube. And I do have the frame. I thought it was going to be an FFO today because I have the frame, and I even have the quilt batting glued onto the board. So this is a frame that was originally from Ross. It was like a art thing at Ross for $7. I bought it for $4 from Goodwill. It was like word art. So I didn't save that much money, but it's like the perfect size for this. And I really thought I was going to have this fully FFO'd, and then I ran into a problem. So, well, you can see that it fits, but that's not what it would look like. Which is that it has staples in it that we're holding the board in, and I don't really know if I have the ability to, you know what, I do. I don't know. I need to push them up and then push them back down, and one of them popped out. They feel a little bit trickier. I'll figure it out. Anyway, so hopefully I don't keep it under the bed box. My rule is I have to FFO it within 2 Flosstube episodes or 4 weeks. Do I have a couple of Christmas ornaments and one finish not FFO'd? Yes. But in general, I really try to make it so that I don't. Because otherwise I don't want to have 30 things to FFO in one day. So, anyway, so this is the frame it is going to go in. It's going to go on my murder wall, which is up there. I will show you guys an update of the murder wall when these pieces are on it. But anyway, so maybe I'll try to, I don't know. I just need to, once I lace it, I'll be really invested in figuring out getting it in there. So maybe I'll leave it out. Pre-editing, post-filming, Stephanie here. After I filmed this and I went to go put away my Hello Summer, I decided I just didn't want to put it away. I wanted to figure out how to get it in the frame, which I did. I laced it up. You can see both the Ross and the Goodwill sticker on there because I put quilt batting on the actual word art, which you can't see through this. But anyway, so I laced it up, and I was able to manipulate the staples that were in there enough to pop it in, to like pop them in and then use it. So I use this to bend them down and then to put them back in place enough so that it stays in there. And then this frame is perfect for putting in my little cubby where I display stuff seasonally because it is summer. And then I will, when summer's over, I will put it on my murder wall. And I think it will hang fine with just a nail. It might be a little wobbly, but it'll be fine. So yay, FFO. My first Make It Murder FFO. First of many, hopefully. All right, so this is my Make It Murder version of Frosted Tiny Town. I switched it to Fargo. And okay, so I did finish this for the Flosstube. Since the last Flosstube, I have stitched almost 2,900 stitches on it. I stitched almost the entire thing since the last Flosstube. I had just done a little bit. I found this board at Goodwill this week for, I want to say $3. I did take the sticker off of this. Now, I want to sand, I peeled some of it off to make sure that it would come off. I want to sand it off because it's like the perfect size for me to do a little like board and glue and some cute rickrack around it finish. You can kind of pretend, but more of the wood is going to show. Even if I make it as long as the board, some of the wood will still show, so I do want to get it off. And I also think that'll just make a better base for gluing it on, but I'm excited about that. So that was my other Make It Murder finish, and I am going to try to get these FFO'd in the next week or two, so I'll leave that one out too. My shipping station, which got a little messy in the last weeks. So while those were whips, they lived in this Jasmine's Custom in Bags Wednesday Adams bag. Frosted Tiny Town is by Heart and Hand, if you don't know. I stitched them both with this 6-inch Duchess hoop. I need to actually dekit their flosses. I need to dekit this whole thing. Okay, so those are my finishes. One that was during this time, the one that wasn't. If you want to know more about like the inspiration or the changes or anything like that, that video will be below. All right. Starts. After having a few weeks where I had like assignment stitching that I had to get done, it was so nice just to be able to kind of start things. And I did start 2 of my unicorns. I don't even know if at this point if I have any unicorns anymore, because I started the 2 big ones that were still out there, and I'll talk to you about those in a minute. But the first thing I started was not one of my unicorns. It was this, the Beautiful Wings of Spring Sal, which is hosted by Velvet Pony. She's Pony Stitches on Instagram. She invited me to participate in the Sal, and I said yes. And last time I showed you guys this 14 count Aida, like vintage Aida that I dyed for the Sal. I thought it would be pretty. I think the colors, I was worried at first. The colors weren't popping, but I didn't do the red until last, and that really made a huge difference. The blue popped, but like some of these like pinks and browns were not popping. But once I put in some of the brighter colors, I'm not worried about that anymore. So this is finishing part 1. She's released up to part 3. So I will never be caught up on the Sal, but it was so easy to stitch on this when I was watching my kids, because it's 14 count Aida. There's large patches of color blocks, and there's lots of places for fill-in. So like yesterday I did 400 stitches of fill-in, like at Mother's Day, at like the Mother's Day event, like lunch that my mom had. So I don't think I'll never be caught up, but I do think I can keep this out and get stitches on it when other projects wouldn't be possible. So I wasn't going to put it away anyway, but I couldn't believe I got part 1 done in 2 weeks. Like stunned. And I found all the flosses are the call for except for 2. This lavender, it's more of a periwinkle, it's the call for, but I didn't have it. And then one of the browns is very close. Is it the brown? There's one other color in it that's like, I use the thread. I use the DMC to DMC conversion calculator online. I'll link to it below, to find 2 that I did have in stash that were like very close. So I love it. I'm definitely going to be keeping out. You can still join the Sal. My glasses are fogging up a little bit. You can still join the Sal if you are interested. There's 3 more parts to be released. This section was 2,000 stitches, so I'm guessing the whole thing's about going to be 12,000 stitches. My original plan wasn't to try to finish it or keep up, and I'm still not going to keep up. But I do think it might be something where, because I can stitch it during times I can't stitch anything else, I might be able to sneak in a finish on this before the state fair. And there's an animals category that it'll be like perfect for, that I don't really have anything else going in. So we'll see. If I get to like 50% by like the middle of July, then I could really see it becoming a contender to finish. My project bags are upside down and crazy. Okay, I was stitching this with One of the other reasons I was loving it so much is that it's been a while since I'd had a oval princess hoop as like my hoop. For some reason, the way that my brain works, once a hoop is on a project, my brain only wants to see that hoop and doesn't want to see other styles of hoop. And so, but I hadn't had any that I had picked this kind for a while. It's so stupid, but that is how my brain works. And so I was really happy to have this out. This is the perfect size hoop too for the way that the releases are. Basically a release will, both of the other releases will also fit in this one, in this hoop where you don't have to move the hoop. And it just kind of makes it easy just to pull it out. And it lives in this Stitching with Bears project bag that I received as Stitchy Kindness that I showed you guys recently, that I absolutely love. And I'm using both of the bags that she gave me, and then the other two bags that she made were for Allison, and I picked my number one. Allison picked two, and then that's the one that she didn't want, which is great because I love it. So, and it's like perfect for this. So, all right, on to unicorn. So the first unicorn that I started, I had shown you guys in the Mirabilia parade that I was going to be starting one of my unicorns, but that is not the first unicorn that I started because, very exciting, Primitive Needle, her daughter, okay, so Lisa, who was the designer behind the Primitive Needle, passed away, and the family did not continue to publish her patterns. And so if you've seen one of our most expensive patterns videos, you probably noticed that there are some primitive hair in both ears. And and some discussion about it. And so because she had been very prominent in the stitching community and then had passed away in a car accident that was, abrupt, and the family decided not to continue publishing them. And I don't know if they decided, I don't know what the determination was then, but that made the patterns really go up in price. And there are few that were people's unicorn patterns because they were now super rare and super expensive, but had been beloved when they were in print. So one of the nice things about doing those most expensive videos is I really get a feel for, and also de-stashing stuff, is I really get a feel for like more of the history of cross stitch and cross stitch designs and the designers than I would just stitching and talking about what I'm stitching. Partly because whenever I find out something is like secretly, when I find out something is expensive that I didn't realize was expensive, you guys will give me feedback as to why, and I can also go look up more records and things and see, and sometimes you'll find old blog posts where people talk about things, and it's very interesting to see like both how people talked about things like when they first came out, especially if they came out in like the aughts, because there's sometimes like really long form blog posts about patterns and things from that era that are still like live on the internet. So if I find a pattern and then I find out that it is expensive and I'm able to go do more research, whether it makes it into one of those videos or not, it helps like me build context. And then when I make those videos, I get like 20, 25 hours of cross stitch history like in 1 week. And then we make the videos and then you guys give me more context in the comments. So I had grown an appreciation for the Primitive Needle that I hadn't had really, because I'd seen people stitching it on Flosstube. Specifically, I'd seen Sarah from I Swear I'm Stitching. I had been watching her stitch Black Sky, but and there are other people that have them. Obviously, there are other people that have. But I've been watching her stitch it and not fully understanding or appreciating the history of like why it was such a special choice to be stitching that. So all that is to say, I really like Black Sky and I do think I will stitch it one day, but that was not the unicorn that I had from the Primitive Needle. The one that I ended up falling in love with, unfortunately, was also on our most expensive list. I think it was an honorable mention though. But anyway, more than I was going to spend on a pattern. Was Annie Hyssop's Harvest Moon. I had seen it on Tara of Sully Stitches. I'd seen it in her fall finish parade. And it is so primitive and so weird. Obviously the Primitive Needle, primitive patterns, there's like a level of weirdness that is so good that are in these patterns where it is both sophisticated weirdness, but not like too much, but not prim just for the sake of being prim either. There's something about them. And then the more I looked at them and seen like what, you know, I'd done a lot of research on them and then fallen in love with this one particular one. And seen people show them in finished parades and stuff and heard you guys tell me about them. And Annie Hyssop's Harvest Moon, I don't know why specifically that hit me so hard, but it just did. And partially I think it's because in the 6th grade we sang a song in vocal music the last year I was ever allowed to sing in public, except on this channel where I sometimes force it on my sister. But anyway, about like a harvest moon. So I'd fallen in love with that pattern. The way the moon's face, I'll show it to you guys, the way the weird moon's face is, the weird jack-o'-lantern that's in the graves, like the jack-o'-lantern's in the cemetery. Her name's on it, but it is not like a reproduction. I actually really adore, I like a reproduction sampler. I don't stitch that many of them, but I actually really adore when a designer makes a fake history for it. It's kind of like a Make It Murder to me almost, where it's like, you're just creating something, right? That is, I don't know, I just really like that. So I liked all of it. I liked all of it. I liked how it wasn't like, it was beautiful and there were flowers, but the flowers were weird. Everything's weird. It's got a lot of stitches, but it's a little bit stitch sparse in places. It just has something that's like very interesting. The more I look at it, the more I liked it. And one of you guys reached out to me and said that you had it and you had already stitched it and you were excited to lend it to me. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, I'll take it. So I was already planning on borrowing it and stitching it, and I knew it was going to get started right away because it was going to be a borrowed pattern, so I was going to need to start it. And then Mariah, Lisa's daughter, like, I don't know what people in the stitching community knew this was coming, but I am not connected enough to the stitching community to know this was coming. Her daughter announced that she was digitizing her patterns and was going to have them available. And so then there was no need to borrow it because even though we didn't know what was going to come out or when, it was like going to come out eventually. So we just kind of dropped it. And then Mariah had given a couple updates, like what she was working on, but it was one of those things where it was like, there's a lot of primitive needle patterns. You don't know which ones she was working on or how many they were going to come out at once. You know, like, is this a 10-year project or a 2-year project? You just don't know. And we're just all grateful for anything that comes out. So so I had no clue that Annie Hyssop's Harvest Moon was going to be one of the like earliest releases, but on Friday, Mariah dropped the website. Well, she'd already told us what the website was, but basically it was like, it's live and there's some patterns up. Have fun. And, you know, rush over there, see what's up. Blackest Sky's up. I was really good though, and I only bought Annie Hyssop's Harvest Moon. I could not believe it was one of the first ones released. It makes sense from a monetary standpoint to release the ones that were highest in value earliest, because those would be the ones people would like be the most excited for, obviously. But not every one of the most expensive or honorable mentions from the last few years was up for sale. Blackest Sky's up. Annie Hyssop's up. I want to say something else. Oh, Witch's Hollow is up. There's a few. So, and there were some primitive needle patterns that were freebies or in magazines. I know Rosanna from Bright and Dusty stitched one out of a magazine that she saved. So if I had really wanted to stitch just something from her, I could have picked up, I have the freebie, I could have picked it up. But it feels so special to wait, and I love that Mariah released it on Mother's Day weekend. Like, it felt like such a wonderful tribute to her mother, and I just like, not gonna cry. You know, like, I have a daughter. I have a mother and I have a daughter. So obviously like that's like, it really hit. So I just was like, you know, so I just like I looked and I was like, oh, cool, cool, cool. I'm not going to buy it, but like, it's cool that it's out. But I had a terrible headache. I got no work done that day. And I was like sitting in the car waiting to pick up my kids with like the last 10 minutes of like childcare covered freedom to just sit and eat Taco Bell nacho fries in peace. And I just like, I swear to God, I had a blackout. I just hit purchase. And I haven't been so good. I didn't buy anything from Market. Like I said I was going to not buy stash this year, and I have been really good. Like my one exception was thrift store stuff, and really that has been what I have purchased. But I had to purchase. Like how could I not? Like the unicorn gets recharted by her daughter and becomes available on Mother's Day weekend. Like I had to. So I only got 334 stitches on Harvest Moon, Hyssop's Harvest Moon. Now, I also had to come up with a DMC conversion because the pattern comes with like Gentle Arts and Weeks, and I don't live anywhere near an LNS that I was gonna, like if I wanted to start it that night, which was obvious that I needed to, I was gonna have to do a DMC conversion. I went through my stash looking for what Gentle Arts I had. And the only one I had enough of where I felt like confident I could take enough from the pack, from the kit that it was in, like the whip that it was in, was one that only had 40 stitches in the pattern, so it wouldn't have been helpful anyway. So I just made a DMC conversion, and I pulled the DMC conversion, and I posted it on my Instagram, and I put it under story highlights, like under conversions. It's the only one I like have public, but anyway. I do think I think some of my choices are just like straight off of what people recommend. And then for the moon color, I am making a blend of this because it's like, it only says it's going to be this greenish yellow. And I do agree it's a greenish yellow, or I think it's a yellowish green, not a greenish yellow. And so I'm going to blend it with this yellow and see what happens. And if I hate it, I'll find something else. Or if I really hate it, then that might be the one fancy floss I buy if I can't get a good DMC substitute of it. But anyway, so I haven't stitched very much of it. Also, I'm stitching it on 28 count, 32 count vintage porcelain from Lakeside Linen, which has a little bit of a pink undertone. So it's also possible that some of the conversion that I made, while it would work for a normal, like a fabric that looks more like the model, wouldn't work for mine. I think mine will be fine with most of the colors, but I'm like totally willing to mix it up as I go. It was really special. And I have zero regrets, and I just have zero regrets. I was going to start a primitive hair pattern in October as like my weird, primitive, fun, haunting, dark, mysterious, cool, weird pattern for the year. And I'm gonna put a pause on that and have this be my like weird prim start. So I'm hoping to keep it out, but if it doesn't get that much stitching, it'll slot into where the stitching that pattern was gonna get, because I hadn't bought that one, and everything else I'd planned to start this year I've already owned. But because I hadn't bought that one, I figured that pattern I was gonna have to buy it. They're very similar price patterns, and I was gonna have to buy the bead pack, and I was gonna buy the fancy floss that I had it. There's like a hawk. I hadn't bought any of that stuff, so I was like, actually, this is a more economical choice anyway. I'm just buying the pattern. I'm doing it in the DMC conversion. So in terms of like being responsible, it was not responsible to start it that day, but in my overall yearly cross-stitch budget, it actually went down slightly. So I was able to take some of those items off my to-buy list. And the reason I'm keeping track of my to-buy list pretty closely is because when I go to StitchCon next month, that is like the only like time that my no-buy is like paused. And I'm not going to have a big budget for that because I also don't want to buy a bunch of stash. But there's the Make It Murder pattern that I'm going to do this September. I'm going to grab. So I want to know like what are the things I need for the rest of the year and grab them when I'm there. All right, so that was my second start. And then my third start last night on Mother's Day, I started my other unicorn, which I told you guys about in the Mirabilia parade, which was Queen of Peace. A friend, this was also one of the most expensive. This is also one of the most expensive. The reason that they're unicorns is partially because they're hard to find. So it doesn't mean they necessarily be expensive, but because I research expensive patterns, I tend to influence myself more than I need to. And so anyway, I fell in love with Queen of Peace. I just had this little start. I wasn't able to start her till 11 o'clock last night, but I wanted to start her on Mother's Day. I'm doing her on this very untraditional fabric choice. It's Autumn Breeze by Fabulous Yummy Fibers. It was a fabric of the month when I was still in their fabric of the month. I like their fabric of the month. I needed to stop my fabric, and then I needed to de-stash a bunch of fabric. So, but I do like their fabric. I think she's really gonna pop on this green, but we'll see. And like I said, I only got 128 stitches on her, but she started, and she's gonna stay out because I have a lot more to do on her. Obviously, that's not her like real start. But then also the pattern, I'm gonna work on her until she's done. Not exclusively, because I can't even fathom that. But after Mira May, she's gonna be the Mira, and after Mira May and after Touching the Autumn Sky gets finished. So like if that stretches out into June, that's fine, because I need to send that pattern back to the friend that lent me that. Then this will be staying out until, and just getting like lots and lots and lots of attention. And she lives in this my other Stitching with Bears project bag that I just love. It's like, you know, this is not a British queen, but I do think I have like God Save the Queen in that picture in my thoughts when I picked this out. And so here's the pattern. Last night to start it, I just took a photo of it, of the very center, and just started with one color just to officially start it. Tomorrow morning, I need to take this to Kinko's, FedEx. Do they even, whatever. To one of the places with the big scanners, so that they can scan like a very high resolution file of it for me to be my working copy. So that I don't, because I don't want to stitch out this. I opened it. It gave me heart palpitations just to be the person that opened this pattern. So I need to get it a high resolution scans, and then I'm going to give it back to my friend who's not going to stitch it until I'm done. And she doesn't know if she's ever going to stitch it, but at least that way I can't be holding on to something that expensive that belongs to someone else. So I need to take it in, get it scanned, and luckily that's something I can do with my daughter, so I should be able to do that in the morning, and then ship it to her with some tracking and be very happy, and then she can put it in a lockbox or a fireproof box or whatever until I'm done with it. Okay, so that was Queen of Peace. So it is like wild. Okay, I have had more than, those are not the only two unicorns I've ever had. Touching the Autumn Sky and Queen of Peace were like my two Mirabilia unicorns, because a lot of the Mirabilias, if they were like out of print, but they were like in the 40s or 50s, I just bought them when I had more disposable income than I have now. And they're the one collection I'm allowing myself. So anything else, if I don't have plans to stitch it, I'm not allowed to keep it. I have to de-stash it. But Mirabilia patterns, I'm allowing myself to just like love them and keep them like children. And they're nicer than my children sometimes. So, but Touching the Autumn Sky and Queen of Peace were the two that were like, I'm never going to buy them. They're like way too expensive for me. So, it's crazy that people offered to lend them to me. And then I told you guys I'm going to start the emerald and silver dragonflies from Nora Corbett in November. And I wouldn't say those were my unicorns. There are a lot of people's unicorns. I'll just say that like I liked them, and my friend said that she had them and I could borrow them before I'd even like determined if they were going to be unicorns or not. Like if I was going to like try to figure out a way to get them. So I know I'm very lucky to have access to those things because I talk to you guys and you guys come and watch these silly little videos that Allison and I do, and then we make connections with people. And I haven't lent other people expensive patterns in the past, so and so that I know that feels good. So I know like it feels good for them to lend them to me, but I also feel like completely overwhelmed with their generosity. But I think I now officially have no like pattern that is out there that I'm longing for that is so expensive I wouldn't buy it. The only one that I have that I can think of is Madonna of the Garden. It's the only out of print pattern that I have like an eBay notification still set up on and still look to see if somebody accidentally lists it for like cheap. But I also know that like when I get through these like 13 whips that I have a friend who owns it who said she'll lend it to me, I'm just like not in a place where I'm ready to start it. So I will say like actually like starting these two things, I'm out of unicorns. like I'm stitching all the dream projects, and the crazy thing is I just need to force myself to actually stitch them, because you know when you have a piece that you like so much you don't want to stitch it because you don't want it to be done. This happens to me all the time. I don't want it to be done, or I don't feel like I'm actually worthy of like really getting into the project, and so I just need to do that. And I know because the stuff that I get lent is so special, but the fact that like all of these primitive needle patterns are just now going to be available to anyone that wants them and nobody has to like be priced out of them is like so special. So I know I started two of my unicorns this weekend, but I know a lot of you guys purchased and or started your unicorns this weekend too, because I know a lot of primitive needle patterns that were up were people's unicorns, which is just like what a great gift that Mariah gave to our community this weekend. Like, so I'm just very touched with my personal generosity, the generosity that friends have shown me personally, and the generosity that the community has had for each other. Like, it was a very special weekend. And I know Mother's Day isn't easy for everyone, isn't straightforward for everyone. So I hope that you had the kind of Mother's Day that you want and deserve, and if you didn't, that you will in the future. I know people were sharing about different, losses and things over the weekend too, and I did reflect a little bit over the 2 miscarriages I had in between my kids, and allowed myself to feel it in a way I hadn't like really felt it in a while. And I do have a pattern picked out that I'm gonna use when my youngest is out of diapers, and maybe next year I'll start it to kind of go through that. But anyway, there was just so many beautiful things that came out of this weekend that I saw, but I know it wasn't. The world is dark and full of terrors. There were some nice moments, and so I really appreciated that. All right. Whips. Okay, so I did 2 of my Mirabilia goals for Mirabilia May. I said in the whip parade I had 2 that are like, so the Queen of Peace has a lot of stitches like assigned to her this month. And then I have 2 pieces that I'm going to try to finish this month, or one of them I drug into June just because it has so many more stitches. I feel like it's almost done, but it's not. But then I have a bunch where I just like wanted to touch them. So this is Cinderella, and her goal, I started this for Allison's Princess Birthday Sal in 2024. Her goal was just 500 stitches, and so it's all like 415, so you can barely see it because it's very similar to the color of the fabric, but I did all of this 415 in here, and then I came down and did a little more of the green in the trees because I had like 30 stitches left to get to my goal when I was out of 415 to do. So just coming along nicely. I love her. I think I would really like to finish the castle and then give myself a break before I try to commit to the dress. But also, I'm starting to get nervous that this fabric is not going to have enough of a margin. So I think the next time I bring her out, I just need to stitch to the bottom, which would be like 500 or 600 stitches. It'd be very easy to get to the bottom, and make sure that I don't, because I cut my fabric, and probably I should not have. I probably should have not cut my fabric because it is a fat half and you don't need the whole fat half. I probably should have not cut it. So yeah, anyway, next time you see this, I'm probably just going to be working on some boring border, because I think I have an inch border. So I cut the fabric and I shouldn't have, and I cut it at a weird angle, and then I found out later that the fabric is also at an angle when I was like learning how to cut. So I'll link to the video, but I showed you guys a video on cutting cross stitch fabric like on the thread, and when I cut this I didn't know how to do that. So I cut it weird, and the fabric piece was weird, which I didn't even know at the time was possible. And so I think I thought was going to be a 2-inch margin is a 1-inch margin, but I need to get to the bottom of the piece and make sure before I like go too far. All right. The next one, okay, so that Cinderella is done for May. She'll come back out in November. Then the next one I finished my goal on was Christmas Elegance. So Cinderella's in print. Sometimes she gets listed. Somebody's trying to sell her for 60 bucks on eBay right now as out of print. She's in print. But if you like her, she's one of the older ones. You should get her. This is Christmas Elegance. She is out of print, but she's not one of the like crazy expensive ones. I did 500 stitches, all of this DMC 500 like below this square. So all right here. And I love this. I started this with Rosanna of Bright and Dusty in November. I love it. I love it. I don't know how much she'll get more. She'll get another 500 stitches this year. I don't know if she'll get a ton more than that, but I really love it. Like, no, it's fun. It's very fun to pull out. I did dekit her a little bit, not of her floss, but I took her like scissors and stuff out because I had hit her goal. I'm still working on my floss organization. No updates since the last update I showed you guys, but that's so much floss just to be sitting in this bag. All right, so that is Christmas Elegance. She got 500 exactly. And then the rest just got little bits. Okay, so I worked on Within a Dream. This is Within a Dream by the Artsy Housewife. And last time I showed you guys this is my memorial piece for my dog Lucy. If you want to know about Lucy, it's the last 11 minutes of the Ask Us Anything video. But this time I just started working on this border and pulling it up. Then I'm going to come over here and pull it up and then do the motif. There's a couple more motifs. There's like, there's a butterfly that starts over here. It might be a moth. But I don't remember why I pulled it out. There was just one day where I needed to. Emotionally. Oh, it was the day where I drove by the vet that was where I had to hurt the vet. So I was kind of sad that day. So, but it's so beautiful. I'm stitching her with the Stitches hoop. It lives in this Lake House Stitch Co bag. Oh, this is, I didn't show you guys a bag. I've been showing you guys some bags, but not the other ones. Okay, so Annie Hyssop lives in this ragtag quilt art bag. Being the piece I showed you guys that. Cinderella lives in this amazing Cinderella bag from Jasmine's Custom Bags. And then Christmas Elegance lives in this pretty Southern bag. And Within a Dream lives in this Lake House Stitch Co bag. I like to some of the times you guys do see bags, and even though it's been like years, they'll be like, I went and bought it and the fabric was still available, whatever. So I do like to mention what it is and show in the description. If you want to go support that, or like if the style is something different or whatever. Okay, so I have 2 whips left. Stitch for Pride 2025. I started Elegance. So I had finished this one March. So I started Elegance, which is the January one, because I don't remember why, but anyway, I don't remember why that was the choice. I didn't do any of the learnings yet. I know about a lot about Elagabalus just from like being a weirdly obsessed Roman history listener, podcast listener, audiobook listener. So, but I do want to read the materials that Dees specifically put out because I am sure there are updates on the language and even the history since the last time I did an Elagabalus deep dive, which was probably like 2012-ish, around when I went to Rome the first time. Because the first time I went was for this like Roman podcast tour with the history of Rome. And I knew right before I went on that tour, I did a full re-listen of the podcast. And so I re-listened to all the episodes, but including the Elagabalus episodes. But anyway, I love Stitch for Pride. This fabric is not very easy for me to stitch on, and so I'm not drawn to picking it up as much as I picked up my one last year. It's more of a, like, eat your veggies fabric, but I think it's really pretty. So I don't want to switch or anything, but that's just something I'm running into that I haven't been as good about picking it up. And I'm using the flosses that were dyed for the Sal. I don't know if I've been mentioning fabrics and stuff. Last whip. Today is the full moon. It's the flower moon. So I'm doing a full moon stitch along with Jen from Jen's Fiber Web, Megan from Megan the Wide-Eyed Stitcher, and Amy from Amy Loves Toads. We are stitching the Moon Phase Bell Pull by Tiny Modernist. And Megan had already started hers. Amy is doing hers in a different configuration and dropping different pieces. So they have different like stitching, like targets and goals and whatnot. But Jen and I, our goal was for the year was to do it in 12ths. So every month to stitch about 640 stitches. So today I did go ahead and start, and I just did 76 stitches of the border. So my goal today is to hit all 640 stitches. So I want to pull the border up a little bit and then go into the moon. But when my daughter was here and eating blue icing, I can just do the border because it doesn't require counting. So I'm doing this on 28 count Enchanted by Oak Crown Studios. If I didn't mention a fabric and you really want to know it, just let me ask in the comments and I'll tell you, because I know I've been a little bit scatterbrained today. Alright, so that's whips. Plans. Obviously do my Moon Phase Bell Pull, keep doing my Mirabilia stitching, and then I do have like stitches. So the way I'm doing this year, now that I'm starting my official plans, is I put everything in a spreadsheet that I needed to do for the month in order to hit the goal by the end of the year. But my real goal is to hit 65% of that. So everything's in there, but it's more of like a menu. So if I want to pick up a Mirabilia today, I can. But if I want to pick up any Hyssop, I can. But I do want to do my full moon stitching today because that's kind of the only thing I'm stitching that's like tied to a date. And then before I talk to you guys again, I don't think I have any other new starts planned. I have my ornament whip go for the 24th and 25th, but I think that is, I should be starting one of my ornament whip goes by the time I see you guys again. But I don't know which one, because it's kind of like whatever I'm feeling that day. Plus what's easy to cut up. Alright, so that's plans. Flosstube University is a section where we share things that we learn on Flosstube. We also do tutorials, but we haven't done one in a while. I will be picking them up again soon. But the only thing I wanted to share for Flosstube University this week is in order to do this finish, I was like watching Vanna Pfeiffer's flat fold tutorial, not to do a flat fold, but to figure out how she gets her boards that she glues on her flat folds to look so good. And I know it's just lacing, but I was watching that. I'm probably going to watch it a couple more times, just that section, to get that part right. I will link to that below. That is a very famous tutorial in the Flosstube world, so you've probably already seen it, but if you haven't, I will link it below. Parades. the only parade I watched that I wrote down was Brittany Cross Stitches had a Mirabilia parade. If you like Mirabilia stitching, her Mirabilia stitching is nuts. She stitched everything. She's stitched a lot and given them away as gifts. Like, I mean, she's just constantly stitching Mirabilias and finishing them. And then there's also one Mirabilia where she finished it on 2 different fabrics. So you can literally see how her stitching looks on 2 different fabrics. Like, it's nuts. Definitely go check out that parade. I mean, it's just crazy. All right. Stitchy Kindness. Oh, okay. So I have 3 things of Stitchy Kindness. They're all a little bit untraditional. So Allison has a coworker who's really crafty and is doing a bunch of destashing, and gave her some vintage hoops, and she gave them to me because she doesn't need them. And I said, is it cool if I sell them? Because I don't really need them either, because you guys have seen, if you've seen our vintage hoop parade, you've seen that I own every vintage hoop that I ever will need to stitch from forever. And she was like, yeah, cool, she didn't care. So I'm going to be listing these. By the time you see this video, I'm going to make a pledge. By the time you see this video, they're live. I'm going to sell these individually, and then this I'm going to sell as a lot. So these are, I think they're 7-inch. The spring top metal ones, they hold your fabric so tight. Now, I have never stitched in these, so I would definitely suggest like giving them a cleaning if you want to use them, or testing them on a piece of fabric before you start stitching on like white fabric with them. They also would make very cool finishing hoops. But these are from Gibbs Co., but this is when they started making them metal. And then these are, I think these are from like the 80s. These are made in Taiwan. They're 8-inch. Yeah, these are 7-inch. These are 8-inch. And they're just like very interesting and cool and sturdy. And they're just like fun vintage hoops. But they are still just the screw top. So if you like screw top hoops, like this is the kind Allison would normally stitch with, except that she just has a million. They're still bamboo, so they're not like super heavy. It's like if a craft store hoop had a little bit more character and history and like provenance. They're like that. But I'm gonna put them together and a lot, and these kind are not expensive. So if you like the idea of getting more 8-inch hoops from a craft store, but instead you would like to buy vintage secondhand, these will be very similarly priced. I haven't listed them yet, so I don't know what the exact price is, but they're not like super expensive. All right. Then this is a little Stitchy Kindness from my son. This is one of those things where like the school has like helps them fill them out. And he said like, my mom is an office worker. She always makes me feel happy. Now there is confusion because he sometimes likes to pretend that my mom is his mom and that I'm his older sister. But he said this was for me and that I could be his mom for 5 minutes yesterday. And he said, my mom is best at stitching, which is how I knew it was me. And then she said, I love you more than my grandma, which is not true. He does not love me more than grandma. And so I think he was really trying as a present to like really make me feel good, even if it required a little white lie on his part. But I just love that he said my mom is best at stitching. Because, that's like, because that's like the one fun thing he sees me doing to like relax and enjoy myself on a daily basis. Because so many of the things I love are not things like you do with like a 5-year-old in the house, like, or like traveling and stuff are not as like fun and carefree with kids and things. So like stitching is how I relax. So I just liked that he said that. And then my brother's girlfriend gave this to me as a Mother's Day present. She got it. She saved it from a garage sale. And it's just an embroidery. It says, remember yesterday, ponder tomorrow, but live for today. Now, the words are not stitched. The embroidery is obviously stitched, but the only place the words are stitched is up here. Part of me wants to like keep the flowers and do something different with the middle, but I don't know how to do that. And she gave it to me. It's not framed or anything, so obviously like I get to change what the finish of this is. So if you have any ideas for how, because like I think that if I don't know, if you have any ideas for it, the words obviously go very close, but I just think the flowers are so pretty. So if you have any ideas for what I could do with this, that, like, the sentiment's not bad, and I would frame it and put it on the wall with the sentiment, but I also think it could be very interesting without words if I could figure out a way to do that. So, but isn't that so cool? And then the last section is haul. And I've been so good. The only pattern I bought for the printing needle was the one I was going to start and wanted. There are other ones that are up already that I know I am going to want in the future, but I did not digitally hoard them. A couple other things I did buy. I bought some frames. So I bought the wooden piece for Frosted Tiny Town, and the same thrift store I found this. Now, you might think this is Save the Stitches, but it's not, because there's just no way. So this was like $4. The frame's amazing. It's a custom frame. And like it's a vintage custom frame. But the stitching in the middle is like nice, but it's just like back stitch on perforated paper. And like it's, I don't know. I think I will probably not like destroy the stitching, but I'm definitely going to use this frame for something cooler. I don't know what, but this was like, I saw this and I was like, oh, I have to have this. Like, so there's that. And then I got a chair, which I will just show you a picture of. This chair was originally $3 and I didn't buy it. And then it was $1.50. It is a 1960s Thomasville chair, so it's very well made. And it's got the perfect wicker back to do a cross stitch in. Now, it needs to be stripped. The paint is really ugly and the seat needs to be redone. And those are all projects I have never done before and don't know if I have the skills to do. So I'm not going to do it like tomorrow, but I did for $1.50 decide to save this chair, and it's like really sturdy. And then this summer, at some point, I want to do a day where I turn this chair into like the cross stitch backed masterpiece of my dreams. So I'm very excited about that. And then the last piece, so that was $1.50. You know, this was $4, you know, reasonable things, but this was 50 cents. This is Experiences in Homemaking. This is the last piece of haul I have to share. So Experiences in Homemaking. This is, I got it from the like cute little thrift store near me that no one ever shops at. It was a textbook at Koshkonong High School. No idea. Senior 72. So this was published in 1960 or 1961, but it was used for a while. Senior 70, Ebby and Karen's Nose, Name, and Leon. Sheila Rourke. I mean, this book was really used. And I just thought it was so cool because it's called Experiences in Homemaking. It was originally published in 1941 and then updated in 44, 54, and then this is 1960. I don't know if they made versions after that, but this is a textbook of what I... Okay, so my camera died because I didn't charge it long enough to... Anyway, so I don't want to do a whole new setup. I'm just going to finish the video like this. So this is what a high schooler would have learned in the 60s and 70s. And you can see the little sewing on the top. Now, did I get it from the entire book? Yes, I think the entire book is information I should probably know. I was rewatching Mad Men, and I was just like paying attention to like all the things they used to know that like I do not know. But there's a whole fiber arts section, and let me get to it. Anyway, there's a fiber art section, and I thought it would be fun to make a video, like a standalone Flosstube extra about, like, what would a 1960s high schooler learn about fiber arts at high school. I did sew a shirt in 7th or 8th grade in home ec in middle school in the 90s from a pattern and everything. Like you had to pick out a pattern and sew it in class. So I took like a real home ec class, but I just thought it'd be fun to like be like, well, what if I graduated high school in 1965? What would I be expected to know from my home ec textbook? Because I don't know it in the realm of fiber arts, probably. All right, well, that is everything. If you were in the membership, I will see you on Sunday. There should be a video out on Thursday. That's another Dees parade. I am going to list these on Etsy and link to that in the description. And I'm toying with the idea of doing weekly floss tubes for a while because it's really, I need the motivation to keep stitching at a little bit rapid pace to get caught up on my goals for the year. So I don't know if next Monday you're going to get an extra or if you're going to get another floss tube. We'll find out. All right. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you want to join the Zoom Stitch With Me's on Sunday, you sign up to be a member of the channel on YouTube. It's cheaper to do it on your browser than on a phone. And thanks so much. Bye, guys.